Hello everyone. Welcome to the third episode in our exciting new webinar series, What's Coming from 12D. My name is Lisa Stewart and I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator here at 12D Solutions. These webinars showcase features that will be included in upcoming versions of 12D Model and 12D Synergy to give you an idea of what to expect when the versions are released. We'll keep running these webinars regularly in coming weeks and recording them for posting on our YouTube channels with links through our website. During this presentation, you'll be able to type your questions along the way, as shown on the screen, and we'll answer as many as possible throughout the webinar. Then at the end, I'll read out some of your questions to the presenter if there's time. Today's webinar, MetaConnex, will be presented by Paul Hardwick of 12D Queensland. Paul has been in the civil construction industry for over 16 years. He's worked as a construction surveyor on small and large-scale projects and has had many years of experience contracting to local authorities, carrying out detail surveys for pre-design works. Paul has been with 12D Solutions for over 8 years in a training and support role. MetaConnex is the latest 12D model tool that empowers data consistency. It's flexible and powerful, and connects your data to your metadata and attributes requirements. Today, we'll look at how this new system can help you to make the most out of your data. Over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Lisa. As Lisa mentioned, today we will be talking about what's coming in V15 MetaConnex. So we'll get into it. What we will cover. What is MetaConnex? That'll be the first thing we're going to cover. How MetaConnex will help your workflow. Example uses for MetaConnex. MetaConnex is a structured list of attributes based on code names. Today, attributes are used so prevalent in everything our clients ask for. So we have GIS packages, BIM, ADAC, ASPEC, all those types of things want attributes. So this is a structured list that you can validate against. It has computation capabilities. We will discuss that a little bit later. Allows validation of the attributes that your client has asked for. How will it help your workflow? MetaConnex allows you to set and validate your attributes before you export your data. So this is going to reduce send back data, time, and make sure that you do the job right the first time. Instead of having to use multiple options inside or outside of 12D, MetaConnex allows you to dynamically calculate attribute values from your data, or you can manually add attributes to your data. So for example, we can calculate the grade of a string, the X, Y, and Z, the latitude, longitude. All that type of data can be calculated on the fly. Things like material, class, that type of thing, use, might have to be manually added, or based off a name, you can set it to a default value, which we'll discuss a little bit later as well. MetaConnex has over 90 calculation functions that can be used to attribute values on the fly, as I just mentioned. So we'll go into have a look at those. The values can also be concatenated to create one value. So to create a value of the upstream pit name and downstream pit name, you need to get both of those values and join them together into one. So there's a whole bunch of cool things you can do like that. It can use substitution values to pull data from project attributes, strings, segment, and vertex attributes. So you might set some project attributes that are standard for the project, and then you in your file it will be able to grab that information from the project attribute and use those in the calculations. Your surveyor may have captured vertex attributes that you want to pull from a certain vertex and put onto a string attribute. So similar to what we are capable in the attribute manipulator, that functionality is also available inside MetaConnex. The validation tool allows you to check your data has the attributes required and that the values are valid. So before you write your data out, you want to first of all make sure it's there, it has all the right information, and that the values are valid. So you can put in ranges. So if it's a real value, you can say, or an integer, you want to say that it's between, say, 0 and 500. If it's a pipe diameter, you can specify that type of information. And if it's a choice list, that the choice that you've filled out, or another user may have filled out, is actually on the choice, is on the choice list, that the choice that they've selected. Error log lines allow you to find and edit invalid data, so makes it really easy to work out where the problem is, and then also allows you to edit it straight from the log line as well. So let's have a look at some example uses for MetaConnex. So today we're just going to have a quick look at use with ADAC. Now this system has been used fairly heavily with ADAC by a few beta testers, and they're finding it extremely successful. There's also been some testing done with some BIM data, with Transport for New South Wales. It's also been used on ASPEC data. Also some systems in New Zealand also have been using MetaConnex to attribute their data. So let's move into the, as I just said, these are the other places where it's been used. I'll move forward into the demo. So I'll just window tab, bring up 12D. Okay, so here we have some data, and I'm just going to, just so you see I don't have any tricks up my sleeve, I'm just going to delete any attributes that might already be there. Just pick my view and clear my string attributes. So all the data I'm working on today has string attributes. I do have some vertex attributes that the surveyor has given me, which I will show you how we can use that information as well. So that has gotten rid of any attributes. So if I F8, which is my shortcut key for the string attributes panel, pick on that panel, there's no attributes on there, and also the tough one, the sewer connections, nothing on that as well. Okay, so MetaConnex, there's a bunch of different options that are available with MetaConnex. We're just going to go through these few here. So you've got Apply MetaConnex, which is the main one, Validate MetaConnex, Set MetaConnex, and Edit. We'll have a look at the edit first and discuss the structure of the file. Now, if this looks familiar to you, it's probably because you've used 12D Field and the 12D Field codes in version 14. This file was heavily based off the 12D Field file, Field codes file. Basically, you can rename your 12D Field codes .12D MetaConnex, and it will read into this editor. There are some things that are different that we've taken out of the MetaConnex editor that don't make sense for MetaConnex, like opcodes and things like that we had for the surveyors. So I'll read this file in. Now this one is quite a complicated file, But I will show you a very simple file that you can make. I'll show you how to make one from scratch. It's very similar. So this one is for ADAC, and under here we have a whole bunch of subgroups, sewerage, and then here's some more subgroups, maintenance holes. Now under here are my codes that I'm searching for. So this one is just a standard one. So if you want to keep this one clean, you might highlight that, copy it, select the parent folder, excuse me, and then hit paste. And then you can give it a different name. So there's two things here. There's a prompt and an output. So the output will be maintenance hole, and this will be the string name that it's searching for unless you put something different in the output here. So if I have a look at this one here, if I copy this one and paste it into here, and maybe I just get maintenance hole, and this is more for an aesthetics thing here. So if I do something like this, so over on the branch on the left here, I'll be able to see that it's a maintenance hole, but the code that it's searching for is this SE star MH star. Okay, so it does support wildcards in here. It also supports some attribute keys, which I'll discuss in more detail later on. We'll go into that in another webinar, I think. Try and keep this one short and sweet. Okay, so that's the prompt and the output. So that's what you're going to see. Okay, so then under here, so this is the string name that we're looking for, and then under here are a whole bunch of attributes that this string name needs. Okay, so it's got things like path, ADAC ID, use, and then see here you can have this type is it's a choice. So you can see here you can have a group, real, text, integer, or choice. And so this is the prompt. So this is what you're going to see. And then this is the output. So this is going to be the attribute name that you will also that will get set. And you can set defaults in here. So the default is, in this case, will be maintenance hole, which I've just copied from this list and pasted into there. The data type is going to be a string attribute, and you can choose whether this is going to be optional, and you can also choose if it's going to be active at all. So instead of having to delete this attribute from in here, if you want to use it later on, you can just come back in and turn it on, and it'll be active for you to use and to apply. You can have some more subgroups in here. So there's subgroups diameter. Now, here's one here where the default has been set to one of these 90 calculations that I mentioned before, where you can select, I want a vertex attribute, and then you can say, I want to get it from vertex 1, and then it's comma separated, and that the attribute name is diameter in millimeters. So that's what the surveyor has surveyed. And then here's the range values that I was telling you about. So the minimum range for a circular chamber is 100 millimeters, and the maximum is 10 meters. It's in meters there. It is optional, and it's active as well. We'll have a look at this one. So this is the surface level. So same sort of thing. I want to get the vertex Z value, and I tell it I want to get it from vertex 1. Okay, invert level. This is actually quite a good asset, this one, because I can see so many different things that I've been able to calculate here automatically. So minimum Z from model. And the model name, instead of having to hard code it in the file, I have a project attribute that says the model name. and then I've got a search distance in here as well. I haven't put a minimum or maximum value in there. You probably could do that as well. There's a whole bunch of things in here. Manhole number. This one's actually quite handy. So get text from model. Okay, so I've got, this is my point that it's basically going to be working on, is one of these SEMHs. And I've been supplied a file that has a bit of text that's next to it. So what I want it to do is say, go get the text from this model. And so the model is also being set as a project attribute. Sewerage manhole numbers, and it's got a search distance of 5 meters. So it'll find the closest bit of text within 5 meters and make that the manhole number. There's a whole bunch of more things in here that we can look at. So if we go pipe pressure, if we go to length here, so in here you've got a calculation that requires no arguments, so you can just put in here length underscore 3D and it will calculate the 3D length. If we have a look at diameter here, now I want to get the pipe diameter, but that's in meters, so I can put it in curly brackets and then times that value by 1,000, and it will factor the the meters diameter into millimeters for me. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea of the file here. Now it does work from top down like a map file, so we'll see how that's important in a second. So I'll just write that away and we'll finish that off there. So to show you how you might want to use it, so if we go apply MetaConnex, it's very similar to using a map file, but it's just got those calculation capabilities in here. So I'm going to say I want to use everything in view 1, and I've picked my ADAC 501 MetaConnex file. I've asked it to clear the output window first, and you can also replace any existing attributes that are in the file as well. So we just hit apply. Now it pops up here and it's just warning me here that these two strings are not in my codes file. Okay, so if I go, I might just turn off the lintel model because I'm just using that as a kind of a calculator model. So yeah, you can either add it to your file or you just turn that model off, or you can ignore the error altogether. So if I have a look at ASCON Stormwater Lintels and remove that model and hit apply, now it's just complaining about this one surface level point here. Now what it is it's just a spot level. So if I want to add that into my file, I just go edit MetaConnex, read, and I find a spot for it down under here. Now under surface, spot heights, I go, oh, there's a spot height, copy that, paste it, and in here I'm just going to put in the SF star, just in case I use a space, LE, and I'll copy that for aesthetics and put it up the top. All right, and write that away. Okay, so now if I hit apply, I get no warnings or error messages in this thing about complaining about the code. Now I do have my output window over here flashing away at me, so I'll just show you what's in here and I'll pin that so we can have a look at what's in here. So every time you run the MetaConnex, it will put the date stamp and time stamp here so you can tell the time when you did it last. But if you clear the window, it will clear that information out. So under here, I have, it's telling me a few errors that I've got here. So for this code DR star MHR star, I've got these 4 elements with some issues. So what it's trying to do here is it's trying to get an attribute called lintel construction, or it's actually trying to get an attribute called construction off another string. And if I turn it back on here so you can see, so it managed to get the length from this string, but it couldn't get an attribute called construction. Now, there's a couple of simple things here we can do. We can go add the value here to construction onto the string, or we can just go set it as a default in the file. So we'll go have a look at that. So if we go to stormwater, pits, now this is under DRMHR, and under lintel construction here, you know, we can either, we've got this one where it's trying to get it from another string. So we could just delete that. And we could just say that it's prefab, paste it into there. And the other thing that we might do is, instead of having to try and calculate the length of these strings, we could just delete that out and make that 2.44, and then write that away, replace. Now if I move that over here for a second and hit apply, now I have my lintel back. If I get rid of him and apply it, doesn't matter, just showing you that. And now I have a green thing here with no errors, no warnings. So that's great. So we've done the apply quite nicely there. Now just remember, this is for ADAC, but this will work for any of your attribute requirements. Okay, so if we have a look at validating the data now, so if we go to validate, I can get rid of this thing and I'll put my validate over here, validate everything in here against this file, and I hit validate. Okay, so I've got some, these are my missing mandatory attributes, attributes that I have to have. So under here, I've got these attributes here that are missing. So I could come through here and hit click to edit, and it pops up this little panel, which is editing this string here when I click on the log line. Okay, so it's after use, material, class, lining, protection. So I could come through here and go use as a conduit, material, let's say it's PVCU, class, whatever, and then lining, let's just say it's unlined, and protection, let's say it's plastic wrapped, and joint type rubber ring. Okay, so if I hit process, what are we at the moment? We've got a few there. So if we hit finish and then hit validate, we will have one less in here. Okay, now all of these have the exact same error on each and every string. So instead of having to go click to edit and edit each individual one, we can globally set these attributes if they're all the same. Now, if they are all different, you may have to go through and change them. So we'll have a look at the set MetaConnex here. So we call this one here set MetaConnex, and we'll pick the file. And here's the option if you want to do some global attributes. If I click on this, and we're dealing with water. So if we go to water supply, pipes, and that's our one there, WSCon. And if we hit global edit, it pops up this panel with a source box. So now I can use my filter, select my model, and that's going to be my water model, and my string info, and select by name. So now if I hit filter select, you can see it's selected all those strings, 12 elements, and I can start to go fill out the things that are in here. So I say use, and I'll fill it all out again once what I did. I think I can, excuse me, go through. I just fill out the ones that are missing here. Material. PVCU, class, lining, unlined, protection, plastic wrapped, and joint type rubber ring. Now all of these other ones I can leave blank because they've already been filled out from the other attributes. The other thing that you're seeing popping up here is the these tooltips that come from the file as well. So it's actually quite handy for the end user to be able to go, oh, what does this mean? And then they can hover over each one of it. Okay, so if I process that, now if I come over to my validate, now I've only got these errors here. So here it wants to know this inlet information. So same sort of thing, I could hit click to edit and fill out this inlet information one at a time, or I can come over and select. Now I'll just show you this. Is instead of doing a global edit, what I can do is it's smart enough. So if I pick this element, it knows based off the codes what element attribute it needs. So I can come into here and go and look at it and say, oh, it's center, inlet type is galvanized grate, and let's say it's a 600 by 600. If I look at the tooltip, it should say something like that. Length X width. Okay. So if I hit process, finish. So that was that one. And if I wanted to do another one like that, I could just come up and pick this one and do, this is a one at a time deal. And same sort of thing, left, galv grate, 600 by 600. Okay, or I can hit my global edit. Select here, stormwater, pits, rectangular, global edit, and same sort of thing. And go to my inlet, and if I go, I want left, galv grate, 600 by 600, and I could go select all of my on that model and names with this name. So if I hit filter select, it selected the 4 elements, and I hit process, and now if I hit validate here, I have no missing mandatory attributes. Now if I have a look at missing optional, these are a lot of missing optional attributes. Invalid attributes, so this is if a string was out of range, or if it had the wrong value, it would warn me here as well. I probably should have put one in here. I think if I go to I might just do that for you. So if I go edit MetaConnex, read that, and I'll go down to the connections. Water supply pipes, and in the depth, this is a good one. See, average depth from tin, and the tin name is existing. So let's just say the minimum value is, now this is in real, so let's say 0.5, right, replace. Actually, let's just make it 0.6. Read water supply pipes depth, make it 0.6. Right, replace, and we'll keep him. I've got another one of them over in my other screen. I'll move him over there again, and I'll hit validate. So now we get some errors, and you can see here, this one here, it's 537 millimeters. It's outside of the range. depth, these all are outside of the range. Okay, so yeah, very powerful way of validating, and you can check before you send data out that it's correct. And then also here you've got the no matching code, and that's the same as before. If there was, if I turn on the lintels here and hit validate, it's just warning me here that that this has no code information that it can validate against. Okay, so that's a bit of a quick overview of what's coming in MetaConnex in V15 with the MetaConnex. So we'll just duck back to our PowerPoint. Oh, before we do that, we will have a quick look at, for those ADAC users, how this actually works for you. So what I'll do is I'll just hit F12, and this will only take a second for your other BIM users, is we can just come under here and go set up for ADAC, and I'll just put this view on the left and this view on the, vice versa. And then I'll add in my data, and I'll just go run chain. And I've not had to use a map file to do any of this. This has all been done with the field codes, so with the MetaConnex file. So if I have a look under the manager here, load, now you can see all of my assets, sewerage maintenance holes. It's put all of the numbers from the manhole numbers. It's got the date from the project attributes, the status from the project attributes, diameter, surface level. It's done all that information, all of a click of the button. And I think the most impressive one of all, if anybody has ever done ADAC with sewer connections, it has done an enormous amount of work. So it's got the surface level, invert level, the diameter, the material, sorry, not the material, the length, the chainage, offset, line number, IO distance, nearest. So let's just, for you guys who don't understand ADAC that much, let's just have a look at what this thing has done. So I'm just going to run this little dimension tool, because what they want to know, why does it jump back to this slide? Window, tab. That's weird. The project save button come up and it jumped me over to there. Okay. Now, for sewer connections, what the council wants to know, this one here's a good example. You can see everything without having to zoom around too much. So this is the sewer connection. So they want to know the, let's bring up the file so you can see it. Read sewer, sewerage, connections, connection. So the chainage is the distance from this inlet point down to here. The offset is from the pipeline out to the connection point. The line number is the number between this 101 on 6 and 101 on 5. The downstream manhole ID will be this 105. The IO distance will be this distance. There's all these things that they want to know. The set out nearest is the nearest property boundary from this point. The next nearest is this one here. They want to know this distance. All that information that they want to know as well. So that has all calculated that for them. So if we show you here under label sewer connections. Now this is using the attributes. So if I just call it DIMS, and I'll change this to 250 and process, turn that model on. It's gone through and calculated all of those points And then now we've been able to label all of those dimensions. And you can see how much work it has done on every single connection. It has calculated the downstream manhole ID, the chainage, the I/O distance, every single thing. Now that's an enormous amount of work that thing has been able to calculate. And for those who have used ADAC before, there's all these data prep tools under here that have basically been done away with. So under here there was sewer connections. And each one of those you would have had to manually pick the endpoint, pick the pipe, pick the downstream manhole ID, pick the nearest boundary, pick the second. It's done all of that work automatically for you in a way that's reproducible, and you can validate against this file before you even start the ADAC process. So we will go into way more detail at the tech forum about how to use this file more, and we will discuss in more detail for the BIM users how we can set it up, and also for the ADAC guys in more detail as well. So I think that's about it. So I'll hand back to Lisa and we'll see if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Paul. That was fairly comprehensive, so I won't do too many questions live, but I do have one here from Scott. Since there's a lot of commands in this, so he would like to know whether there'll be sort of documentation and a bit of help with those when people are starting to use them in 12D Model 15.
Ooh, better unmute myself again. Yeah, there's a lot, and there is a bit of a Docker going, and I'll just see if I can get to my screen, my other screen. The slideshow makes it a little bit difficult. At the moment, I've just generated a, as I create them, I've got an Excel spreadsheet of all of the different commands. You're still seeing my screen? Yep. So yeah, I've got a bit of a list here, and so it's got all the different calls, the number of arguments that it needs, and a bit of a description over here. So once we're kind of ready for full production, this will go into the PDF, and it will be a little bit like the macro manual that we have for the 12D programming language, where they'll kind of give you a bit of an explanation on what each one does, and then the arguments that it's kind of looking for. But you can see there's the 90 odd that I mentioned before. So there's plenty of them in there, and as the beta testers are using it, they're coming up with more and more different things that they want to calculate. And I'm sure once it goes to a wider audience, we'll be flooded with other things that you'll want to be able to do as well.
Absolutely. So, and Luke was asking, will the MetaConnex file be treated as an ever-changing file?
I guess that kind of answered the same question by me saying that we'll be adding to it, I think is what you mean there, Luke. If it's not, you can fire us an email.
Sure. Yes. So yeah, any of the other questions I'll be able to email through to you after the presentation, Paul. So, and of course, as you mentioned, these features and many more will be delved into in far more detail at our 2021 Tech Forum, which is going to be an online event this October. So jump on our website and have a look for more information for that. I believe the registrations for that have opened now as well. So we can, we can start taking your registrations. The recording of today's webinar will be available in coming days through the webinars page on our website and on our 12D Model YouTube channel. Keep an eye on our emails and social media for details of our future webinars in this series, including subgrid sampling on the 2nd of June. And later we'll have a few other topics like what's new in 12D Synergy and Pavement Manager, and some BIM set-out stuff that Graham Worth will be presenting in a few weeks. If you need to contact us in the meantime, our details are on the screen now. That concludes our presentation for today. Thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at future webinars.